What's up guys, it's me Eric B and welcome back to the channel. We're on the F3 today and very nice day. We're gonna get this bad boy out and I want to do a video for you guys of my likes and dislikes of this bike. I don't have a specific number or anything like that. You know, some people have like, oh, 3 dislikes or 5 or whatever. I'm just gonna kind of go through some of the things that I don't like about it and then some of the things that I love about it. So don't know how many people out there own an F3 or have ridden one or anything like that or are looking to get one, but hopefully this video kind of gives you a little bit better idea about this bike, because not a lot of people know about it, surprisingly. So whenever I'm out and about and you know I'm somewhere at a meet or something like that, people, especially in this town, don't really know a whole lot about MV Agusta, which is crazy because if you are a rider, you know most of the brands. I've even had people walk up to me and be like, hey, is this a Ducati? When clearly it says MV Agusta all over it. But I can kind of see where they're coming from because of the red and the Italian style and stuff like that. But obviously the big difference is the front end here, and even the tail is a lot different from the Panigale. All right, but without further ado, let's go on ahead, get on this bad boy. Let's give you guys a nice little start here. It's not a cold start, but I just wanted you to see the startup screen here. It takes a while to boot up, so that's probably my first dislike about this bike, that the startup screen takes a while to get to the tachometer and everything. And boom, here we go. And then I guess my other dislike is on this bike is that you have to pull in the clutch in order to start it. I know you have to do that on some Suzuki's. This bike, I think Triumph does that as well. It's kind of stupid. Kind of like, there you go. Or you can just start it without having to do all that. Yeah. All right, we're in first. Let's get this show on the road. Alright, so one of my biggest dislikes about this bike is the maintenance on this thing. So whenever you need to do something, even if it's simple as getting to the battery, you literally have to tear the bike completely apart to get to it. That battery, that goes for the air filter, and really anything that you need to get to as far as getting the tank off and stuff like that. It's not easy. So you basically have to pull apart the entire rear end of it. So the rear fairing, it just slides off as one unit. And then you have to lift the tank up and everything just to get to the battery because it sits directly underneath the tank. To get to the air filter, you have to take off the entire front fairing, the side fairing, all that stuff, because you can't just get to it normally like you do on at the top of the air box. You have to do it from the side of the intake runner. So that's kind of weird as well. And then just easy things like just, you know, adjusting the shifter and stuff like that, because I had to adjust the shifter because I couldn't get my foot up under it and stuff like that before, and that was a pain in the butt because the way it's routed through the frame, you basically have to take the whole thing apart just to adjust it. But yeah, those are my big gripes that I have when it comes to maintenance. And then just adding on to the maintenance piece, I know a lot of people probably hate the fact that there's not a lot of dealer support, and there isn't. It's getting better now that MV Agusta is kind of owned by KTM. Things are starting to look a little bit better, but the closest dealership to me is about 3 hours away. So if I need to do anything at the dealer, you know, I'm gonna have to load it in my trailer and drive it over there. But it's not a huge deal to me. It's not a deal breaker. I don't mind driving, and it's not like I'm constantly taking my bike to the dealer. I do all of my own work on the bike, oil changes, you know, pretty much everything that I need to do, except for like changing the tires out and stuff like that. You know, I'll pull the tires off and go take them to get them changed out. That's not like I said, a huge deal breaker for me. Alright, so I said changing the battery is a pain in the butt. The other thing is the rear brake on this bike. And it's a common issue with all F3s. The rear brake is really kind of non-existent. It doesn't really work all that well. You just have to keep bleeding it and it'll work for, you know, a little bit. Say like you go on one ride and it's good, and then after that you literally have to like pump it to get it to stop, but it won't stop. Like you can't lock it up. It's enough to like hold you in place, like if you're at a stoplight or something, but that's it. Definitely not a fan of the rear brake on this bike. Doesn't really matter to me all that much because I'm not really utilizing the rear brake, and even when I'm at the track, you don't really use the rear brake all that much unless you're an advanced rider and you know how to manipulate the bike in order to, you know, kind of drift into turns and stuff like that. But whatever. All right, and here we are. So I was having some technical difficulties with the GoPro. Magically, my battery died for whatever reason. Sometimes I have that issue, but I just wanted to finish this video in the driveway with you guys. Just finished talking about some of the things we were going over with the dislikes. So I started off with the display and the clutch and everything. So like I said, on the display, it does take a little bit to boot up and everything. It's not as quick as some of the other ones, and then you have to use the clutch in order to start the bike. Just little minor nitpicks or whatever, you know, from my perspective. May not bother a lot of other people, but that's just me. And then the maintenance aspect of it. So just like my KTM RC8, this bike is I don't know, maybe a little bit harder to work on, just because it's not hard. It's just the fact that you have to take the bike pretty much completely apart to do anything simple. So just to change the battery, it sits right underneath the tank, and you literally have to remove this whole rear end here. You have to pull the tank up and all that stuff just to pull that out. It literally sits like right in there. And then to change the air filter, you have to remove this side panel and then take off the whole front fairing in order to get to the intake runner, to take that off to change out the filter. Another thing that is a pain in the butt on this bike, if you are going to do a coolant flush or anything like that, the coolant reservoir sits right in here. It's the overflow, so it sits right in the middle instead of usually like right here on the side of the fairing. It's right, the top of the reservoir like is right under the gas tank. So in order to refill it, you have to do it that way. Now doing the flush is just like any other bike, but if you want to add more coolant to it, instead of just, you know, removing the fairing or just moving a little panel and pouring some more in there, no, there's a little bolt right there. You have to take a little syringe and a hose, pop that out, and then stick it in there and refill it like that. So it's kind of tedious, but yeah, that's another thing that I don't like. All right, so I already think I discussed the rear brake. I think there's an issue with where the location of the reservoir is at. I know some people have done some mods where they have moved it up here, but I think it sits way too close to the engine and it gets super hot. And then there's really there's like, this brake pedal is like non-existent. You have to bleed it every now and again, and it'll last for, you know, like a day or so, and then it's pretty much gone. You can't really use the rear brake. I mean, it'll work to a point where you can actually kind of, you know, stay stopped at a stoplight or something like that, but don't plan on really using the rear brake at all. And I think this is a common issue across all F3s. I remember now. So we're in the day and age here now. This is a 2022. Now it's, you know, this bike, and we're in 2024. And we are still using basic halogen lights, right? So most bikes now have LEDs, and the 2023 model of this does have the LED integrated into the headlight now. But with, you know, it got the TFT display, all that stuff. We got LEDs everywhere else, but the headlight is still the ugly yellow halogen bulb. So what I did was I ended up ordering a LED bulb to put in here, which actually looks great. It looks like a LED light, you know, inside there it's nice and white, doesn't look all yellow and dull and dim and gross. But that's what I did in order to correct that issue. All right, mind you, I've had this bike for about 3 months now, and one more thing that I don't like is when you change the chain out and everything, or if you just want to pull the front cover off in order to clean the front sprocket, there is a cover that covers this whole thing. It's not just a cover over this. It's all connected, like it's one piece. This whole thing, you have to pull that all off just to get to that. So you kind of see the pattern here. So in order to do really anything to this bike, you have to pull a lot of stuff off. And oh man, I tell you, it's a pain in the butt. But like I said, if you like to work on your bike, like I do, I mean, I don't mind doing it, but sometimes it's just a pain and you don't want to do all that in order to get to the thing that you need to get to. All right, I promise this is probably the last dislike that I have, but it's once again with the battery. So this bike, for whatever reason, you cannot leave this thing longer than like 2 days without it being on a charger, or it will die. For whatever reason, I think there's some sort of like anti-theft thing in here, GPS or whatever, that's constantly going, that like has a lot of draw on the battery. And when I first got it delivered to me, the battery was dead. Tried charging it, it wouldn't work, and it had just a normal battery in it, and I swapped it out with a lithium. Then I went on a trip for about a week, forgot to put it on the charger, came back, obviously it was dead. You know, recharged it, it was good to go. Now, when I had my DUCATI Panigale 1199, I left that bike for, oh man, like 2 or 3 weeks without it being on a charger. Came back and it fired right up. So just know, if you get this bike, you have to leave it on the charger. So what I'll do, if I know I'm not riding for, you know, a couple days, a week, whatever, I will throw it on the charger and I'll leave it on there and it's good to go. So I don't know if that's a huge deal, but I don't know, it's just, it kind of sucks if you have to like constantly leave the bike on a charger. I don't think it's a huge deal, but this is the only bike that I've really had to do that to, if I'm not leaving it for an extended period of time. Oh, sorry, I actually have another thing. So on here, as you can see where the water temperature is, that is what you get for the water temperature. That's not a whole lot, and it'll stay green when you're running, and then it'll go red if it's starting to get hot, and that's it. You know, most bikes, it either has like little chiclets where it goes up and you can see it that way, or it actually has like numbers, you know, it'll say 170, 180, 190, things like that. Not this bike. So you really don't even know how hot the bike is getting, other than when it turns red, it's hot, and I really don't like that. And this is on the race screen, but if you have it on the normal, you know, just street mode type display, you don't even get any kind of temperature gauge or anything on it. So yeah, I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. And then the last thing with the display, as you can see, I have it on the white color, so during the daytime it's bright, but at nighttime you can use the black. And on my Aprilia and my Ducati, it would automatically change from light to dark depending on if it's daylight or nighttime. This bike does not. You have to manually go in and switch the color of the display. So I think that's all my dislikes on this bike so far. All right, so finally we are to the likes. And the first things first is definitely going to be the style and the looks of this thing. I mean, it is beautiful. I like the body lines, everything, and this is what MV is known for, is their beautiful motorcycles. That's why they call it motorcycle art. This thing just looks gorgeous, man, no doubt. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention was in the dislikes, that there's not a huge part selection for this bike. I mean, there's parts out there, but there's just not a lot of things you can get for it, or if you know there's certain things for it, there's not a lot of options or varieties. And then I've already gone through like the dealer support and stuff like that. All right, so when we were on the bike earlier before my battery died, you guys heard, you know, the exhaust note, the engine tone and everything, and I've already discussed that triple cylinders just sound freaking amazing. So the F3 sounds really good. You got things like the Triumph, Daytona, stuff like that. They just have a distinct sound and they sound really good. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and start this back up for you guys real quick so you can hear it one more time. It just, oh, I love it. And the thing, like I said, sucks. I have to use the clutch to start it. So I'm gonna set this down real quick and start it up for you guys. Nice bluing on the exhaust, looks really good. give it a couple revs. Cannot lie, that thing sounds beautiful. I know I said I didn't have any more dislikes, but it's like I keep finding them as I go along. Right here, the clutch, once again, sometimes I don't know if it's the cable, but it will get stuck and get kind of crunchy for whatever reason. And then sometimes once the bike is warmed up and it's good to go, it goes away and it becomes completely smooth. And I've heard that it might be the cable, and the cable may need to be replaced, but that's also a common issue for whatever reason on this bike. So yeah, if you are getting this bike, just beware of your clutch cable. The other thing that I like is the performance of this bike. I have not had any complaints with this. I've already brought it to the track once already, and this thing performed flawlessly. It tips in, it feels lightweight, you know, as you're leaning into the corners and everything. The braking isn't too bad. The brakes on something like the Daytona 765 actually felt a lot better, but I think this just needs some steel braided brake lines, and I think it might be good to go. It's a Nissan master cylinder, so yeah, as you can see right there. But the brakes aren't too bad, pretty good, but not the best. And like I said, performance-wise, man, this thing handles beautifully. As far as the power goes, like, it has just enough torque. The top end is really nice, so I can't really complain. It's not a 1000, and it's a little bit better than a 600, kind of like a Gixxer 750 or something like that, if you will. But yeah, performance is pretty good on this bike. So how I said a lot of the maintenance things on this bike was kind of a pain or whatever, but believe it or not, the oil changes on this bike is actually pretty easy. So in order to change the oil, they made the drain plug really easy to get to, and to get to the filter, it sits right on the bottom, and you just pull that out. It's an internal one, just like the Ducatis, and change it out. I mean, that was probably the simplest maintenance thing I had to do on this bike. But yeah, like I said, performance, the looks, yeah, you can't go wrong with that, and there's nothing to hate about that at all. All right, some of the other things I like is definitely the color TFT display. I think that's a nice addition. I wish they would have added that early on the F3, like around 2020, but they waited till 2022 to throw it on there. And then I do like how this bike comes. I talked about needing to do the battery charging and everything on here. I do like how it comes with a connector in the tail piece for a charger, so it's already set up. So you just got to pop the tail here, and there's a plug back there where you can plug a charger into it, and you're good to go. All right, so this bike doesn't have a steering dampener on it. So if you're gonna, you want to do that, you're gonna have to add one of those yourself. And then on here, I noticed the little nut for the wheel, the clip is on the inside. On a Ducati, it's on the outside. So if you want to use a rear stand on this side, you have to pull this out in order to use the rear stand on this side. On the other side, it's normal like all the other ones. But yeah, that's just a little thing right there. And then also, if you are a taller rider, I'm 6'1", you may be a little bit cramped. It's not bad. The seating position feels pretty good and everything, but if you try to scoot back when you try to go into a tuck, you don't have a lot of space to scoot back at all. So just take note of that. All right, guys, and the final thing that I like about this bike is the exclusivity of it. So having an MV Agusta is pretty rare, depending on where you live. I know places like California, maybe South Florida, stuff like that, you may see more of them. But where I live here in Tennessee, I have not seen any other MV Agustas on the road, especially an F3 in this town. And whenever I pull up to meets and stuff like that, people are like, "What is that?" Like I said earlier on, someone asked if it was a Ducati. Like I said, clearly says MV Agusta on the tank and everything like that. And people just ask questions about it because they're curious about the bike. I mean, I guess it kind of does resemble a Ducati a little bit because of the red color and everything. But yeah, I do like having that rareness to it, you know what I'm saying? But it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because when you try to, I guess, put it on the market to sell it, there's not a lot of them around, and if there is, pricing them is kind of weird because I really don't know how to price it. So if you're going to pick this bike up, it's mostly, you know what you're getting yourself into when you get something like this, and it's a particular type of rider that owns these type of bikes. So yeah, I hope this video kind of helped you guys out. If you're looking to pick an F3 up, or you know, you're just trying to, you just got one and you want to know all the ins and outs and everything like that, I don't want to scare people away, because I think that's what happens sometimes. A lot of people get turned off by MV Agusta because of, you know, not enough dealer support. Oh, it takes forever to get parts. There's not a huge parts selection. Oh, I hear a lot of maintenance nightmares and stuff like that. The engines are pretty good now on these bikes. The older ones, they had these silver engines and they weren't good. They used to drop valves and all kinds of stuff. They've stepped up the game a little bit on the newer models, so there's not a whole lot of issues with those nowadays. But other than that, just like any other bike, there's going to be some flaws here and there, all right? And as long as you maintain it and everything else, it's not going to be bad. And I said in a previous video, you got to pay to play. So if you want to get into these type of bikes, especially the European, Italian flavor, yeah, you're going to have to know you're going to be paying a little bit of money to maintain them and own them. So other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed that. If you have any comments or questions, definitely leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.